Everyone.
Yes, thank you, Jenny. Uh, I'm going to say welcome everyone who's here live and everyone who's going to be watching the recording. Jenny just reminded us that we are muting everybody who's here live so that we can have a nice clean recording. And at the end, we'll be unmuting everyone because we're hoping to have some questions. And I will be continuing to keep an eye on people coming in because somebody's joining us now. So I'm going to share our screen because we have a cool presentation for you. And so let me do that.
And also, if anyone, if you think of any questions as we're going, please pop it in the chat. And so that's something that we can come back to afterwards for the Q&A. So feel free to utilize that chat. And yeah, we'll get back to that. But let's go ahead and mute everyone.
Okay. So as you know, because you registered for tonight, the topic that we're sharing with you is our introduction to biohacking with Ayurveda. And again, if anyone is inspired to put anything in the chat about how this spoke to you and how you found it and why you registered, we'd be interested to know. And as we're going to be sharing with you as we go along, Jenny and I are going to be introducing each other in a few minutes and share a little bit about how we came together. But just basically, she's the biohacking lady and I'm the Ayurveda lady. And we have teamed up because it is such a beautiful synergy of information and well-being and all of that. So we have something here that I'm just going to refer to as our disclaimer, the fine print. And it's basically that we are not making any medical claims at all. This is a legal and ethical thing. And if anybody really wants to have the fine print, we'd be happy to send it to you, but it's kind of boring. So, and Jenny, did you want to add anything to that? We take this all very seriously and we know how important that is.
Yep. So I think it's just important to say that this is for, you know, entertainment purposes and based on our experience and wisdom and, things that we know and love. But yes, we're not making any claims whatsoever. So if you choose to take any advice or tips or tricks, please consult your doctor or physician first, is what we are supposed to say. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. And I hope it's entertaining and you can also consider it to be educational.
Hmm.
So let's start just like right from the top. What the heck is biohacking? Jenny and I actually did a presentation on that topic at a conference about a week and a half ago because biohacking is a term that a lot of people are hearing about lately. And as I said, Jenny is something of an expert on the topic. Welcome, Myra. We have muted everyone, or at least we tried to. So
You,
if you're
Oh, sorry.
you're the, you're the one with the capabilities, and I think Betsy needs to be muted as well, if you're able
okay,
to.
so Jenny, this is weird. I am not able to see where to stop my share to do that.
Oh, you're fine. You don't have to, but let's do that little arrow thing.
Which little arrow thing?
To full screen.
Ah, indeed. Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, now we are on full screen. So hopefully you can see everything really well. And like I said, we're just starting right out of the gate with taking on what the heck is biohacking? So Jenny, I'm going to ask you to jump in with this one because as I mentioned, you're the biohacking expert. And I have just more recently been coming to understand that. So what would you want to say to this lovely group about what the heck biohacking is?
Well, I think it's important to know because biohacking is, a very kind of hip term these days, and it can seem a little bit intimidating with everything that comes along with it and kind of the tips and tools that you hear about. But you are already a biohacker, and we really have been biohacking since the dawn of, time, right? It's something that as we've evolved in our humanness, we have just picked up tools and tricks along the way to create more efficiency for ourselves in our lives. So it's not a scary thing, but I think that is really important to and why we're kind of bringing you this program is really making that shift mentally. It's a lifestyle. So, the bullet here that says from disease care to self-care, that's really kind of a very basic understanding of where I hope that we can evolve into this new paradigm, right?
Well, and this term paradigm, I'm guessing that everyone who's here and who's listening to this is familiar with that term. And I wanted to say a little bit about what that means to me in the context of biohacking and wellness. And I'll be just very transparent. I always am. I have never resonated with pharmaceutical medicine personally. I've been in the alternative health field for many decades now. And I'm one of these people that just really hasn't understood the way things work in our culture. And the way I've described it is, because I love sharing metaphors, it's like when we were born, we got this body and it came without an owner's manual. And basically they said, you know, doesn't really matter what kind of fuel you put in. You don't really need to maintain it. Just run it into the ground. And when things break down, you can bring it back and we'll make some expensive repairs. And I know I'm oversimplifying and it's a bit of a cynical perspective, but I think that's kind of what our disease care system is. We haven't officially, as part of our education or anything, been taught about how to take care of our bodies. And most people I have observed don't really know the effects of different things that we do. And when it comes to biohacking, Jenny mentioned the word intimidation. I was kind of intimidated because it's kind of a new buzzword, and there's a lot of very advanced technologies that are going along with that. Jenny and I actually met 4 years ago with an energy frequency device that we both work with and use all the time. So I thought for a long time that biohacking was just like technology that we used to kind of enhance athletic performance and, see the limits that the body could be taken to. And then I was educated through knowing Jenny, and also Jenny and I are two of four co-hosts. We have a podcast called Women's Wealth and Wellness Unleashed. And we actually had the opportunity a few weeks ago to interview a really cool lady by the name of Teresa Lally. She and her husband have launched a media platform called Biohack Yourself. Jenny's actually one of their peer-reviewed journalists, which we're so excited to be part of that. I am, just by association, but I'm still excited to be part of it. And she was explaining how they came to take on this platform. And it was basically that they had health challenges in their family that they decided to go outside of the system to find real solutions for. And the way she described it, there was an incredible bubble of alternative and natural and new technologies that are outside of the pharmaceutical insurance system, but that have incredible efficacy. And they're bringing all of that together on this platform under the expression biohacking. And as she said, as Jenny did, we've been biohacking our whole lives. Anything we do to take care of ourselves and help our bodies, function more effectively, like deep breathing or walking on the beach is biohacking. So I've been waiting for this paradigm shift for a long time. And I feel like it is finally happening. I think there's a tipping point in our culture that's going on. And we're Jenny and I are kind of wanting to name that this year feels like a departure for lots of reasons, toward making better kinds of choices. And we're the other way we can describe this paradigm shift is that it's going from being reactive to proactive. We're really excited about prevention. I mentioned this owner's manual concept. We'll be coming back to that a little bit later. Um, but we'd like to say that in an ideal world, we would all have a good understanding of the best, fuel for our, specific engines, the right maintenance schedule, and the goal being a smooth ride in life where we get to maintain this vehicle as well as we possibly can.
Mm.
So that's
So,
a
if you just a little extra tip too, if you didn't know what paradigm is, it's basically a pattern that we create. And so we're kind of in this pattern of consciousness where we don't really listen to our bodies anymore. We go, if something happens, we go straight to our primary care physician, or we go straight to our medicine cabinet for a Tylenol or something if we have a headache. These are the kind of patterns that we have found ourselves in. So when we're saying a shift, we are literally trying to break these patterns, and that happens not only mentally, but it happens physically, and it happens on a cellular level. Um, so it's time for this shift. It's time for us to kind of get back to ourselves and start listening to ourselves. And that's, for me, that is ultimately what biohacking really represents, is kind of this ownership that we have of ourselves and our own vitality and our life force. So I would love to introduce Susan.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Okay, let's go down to the next slide, Jenny. It is not advancing. Here we go. Sorry about that. There I am.
and this woman has is only been in my life for about 4 years now, but I feel like we have spent many lifetimes together.
Probably
Um,
have.
yeah, in various ways. Um, And, what you see here on the screen is just a very, very tiny little blip of what she has actually done and the wisdom that she brings to the world in so many different ways. Um, as a visionary entrepreneur, I mean, she is a master at Vedic astrology and Ayurvedic sciences and women's wellness. Actually, the first time that I saw Susan speak was at a Healy conference where that's the device that we were talking about, this energy frequency device. And she was speaking on stage about women's hormones and how this frequency, how there were certain programs within this frequency tool that we're utilizing to help women balance their hormones. And just listening to her speak was just moved me to tears. And I knew immediately, I saw her on the stage, and I at my friend next to me, I was like, I'm going to talk to her. And that is my newest friend. I just knew that we had this connection, and I was so thrilled to have met her. And, fast forward another year or so, I actually sat down and I was able to do a session with her where she um, was teaching me. I had been listening to her speak about things such as human design and and our wellness, not wellness charts, but wealth dynamics and things like this. And so she started doing all these charts with me, and it was bringing me to tears. And I'll explain a little bit more, because this is the best way that I can describe, um, I think, what Susan can bring to this world is she was able to teach me who I was for the first time. And I was able, you grow up, and I don't know about anybody else, but I learned about horoscopes as a young child. I couldn't wait to read the paper and find my horoscope and see what it said. And I never really vibed with that. I didn't really understand, like, I'm not really a Virgo. That really doesn't make sense to me. But I kind of was forced into this little bubble, right? If you want to go that route. But Susan, going into Vedic astrology really opened my eyes to all of these different aspects of myself. It was really quite magical, and I hope I'm not getting off topic here, but it just doing my human design chart with Susan just made so much sense. And I just couldn't imagine a world where people didn't know about this and where this wasn't taught to children. And why don't we know more about ourselves on this deeper, most energetic, most natural level? Um, oh, I get really emotional about it. And thank you so much, Susan. I could keep going on and on, but I hope that you feel, I hope you all can feel a little bit of what I feel that this woman has brought into my life, and that's only a tiny little bit, but I okay.
Jenny, think I'm blushing as red as that jacket on the screen, and thank you. But I want to maybe point that in the direction of I have been studying a lot of things for many years on the path of self-discovery. And many of these do have implications for what we're now calling biohacking, because one of the things about this topic and Jenny and I coming together around this is that there are amazing tools out there, but most of us don't have enough self-knowledge to know how to choose them optimally. And I've always been very excited about bioindividuality and how unique we all are. And frankly, I never felt like anybody else. So I don't listen to anybody else and kind of, found out through some of the things we're going to be sharing with you tonight, more about that. So, Jenny, thank you. And if we can advance a little bit, tell you a little bit from my side of my experience of Jenny is, as she said, we met 4 years ago in that context, and there's so much that's happened in the last 4 years that it's a little crazy. But we've been working together for the last couple of years in the context of a membership community called Divina Rising that some of you may have heard of. And we've been meeting with a group of women a couple of times a month for a few years now to talk about different wealth and wellness topics. And in the wellness area, we've had a monthly theme, and I've put together some content. And then Jenny is a frequency specialist, and she just takes this in a whole other direction that I would never have thought of. We've had just a small but really devoted community of women that we've all been learning so much from each other because her wisdom is amazing. I mentioned that she's a peer review journalist with the Biohack Yourself media platform that, again, I feel by association so fortunate to be part of. And as I mentioned, we're co-hosts with two other amazing ladies on a podcast. We spoke last week together at a conference. It's been a very important part of the membership community. And we're really excited about developing this program and this community further because we just know that this is what women want. This is what the world needs right now. And we're having a lot of fun doing it, which is a big part of it because I'm not really willing to do anything that's not fun anymore. Life is too challenging as it is. So hopefully you'll get to know us a little bit better as we go along. And the other thing that's interesting is there's quite an age difference between us. Um, so we're representing a couple of different generations. I'm a baby boomer. I'm a childless cat lady. And Jenny is a mom, like a couple of decades plus younger than me. So we're representing some different perspectives in terms of generation and age and wellness issues, um, because being a mom, something I admire tremendously, and I don't have that experience. But a lot of the tools that she mentioned that we're excited about sharing, especially if you are a mother, or in a position to be mentoring younger people, these are just incredible life skills, just incredible life skills. So we're really happy to be here together with you. And moving along, Well, I always want to include this because we're going to be getting into some things tonight that we like to say used to be considered woo-woo, and now we recognize that they're quantum science. And one of those is the power of intention, that our intentions about things actually are powerful. Everything is energy and frequency, and things go out into the world. So whenever I spend time and energy doing anything, I like to have an intention about it. And I invite you to join me in that tonight if that resonates for you. And I'll share that for me, one of the primary intentions is that everybody here get optimal value from what we have to share tonight. And that whatever are your personal ahas or reminders or tips, that they will land with you, and that if this all resonates and you'd like to connect with us further, that you will decide to do that. Jenny, did you want to add any intention of yours?
I would love just to say, I feel like January was a very long year. And right now, at the start of February, I feel like we're still young enough in 2025 that I just want to have everyone kind of look forward to this year because it is going to be full of massive change. And my intention for myself and for everyone is to really embrace what's happening and to shine really brightly and keep moving forward with whatever it is, because this year is going to be full of abundance and brightness. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
And that, by the way, has been all the channels and psychics and astrologers that I listen to, everybody seems to be on the same page about that, that this is really a breakthrough year. So getting a little more focused about this material and why we're excited to share it with you and kind of specifically who it's for. Like I said, it did look as though we had a gentleman joining us earlier. And what we'll be talking about tonight really is relevant for everyone. And we do have a bias about women's wellness and about women's community. So just need to be pretty transparent about that. Um, this stuff is going to be mostly of interest to women that are already, in the holistic alternative world. And there's a little acronym there that I like to share. LOHAS means lifestyles of health and sustainability. And that's something, if you've never heard, you might want to do a little search on, because apparently we're a very significant demographic in the population. And I've been waiting for years for our tribe, if you will, to come together. And it feels to me like it really is coming together under this biohacking kind of umbrella that, again, we're really excited to be part of. I'm guessing probably there are some of you out there like me who do yoga. And if that's a practice that is part of your life, I think this information is going to really resonate with you, because Ayurveda and yoga are sister sciences. Biohackers, obviously, we're excited about bringing the more personalized perspective of Ayurveda to the biohacking conversation, which we're doing here. This should be of interest to wellness professionals of all types and anyone else who resonates with us. And as you can see, we like pretty pictures and stuff to share with you. And the one that we have here, I love Rumi. I know a lot of us do. And what Rumi has to say here is, you have escaped the cage. Your wings are stretched out. Now fly. And again, I suspect that anybody who ended up on this webinar shares some sense of having escaped um, systems and beliefs that haven't been the right ones for us, and are looking for something that we are aligned with. And that's why you're here. So that was an inspiring little quote to me. And as we were saying about this year, time to fly. Jenny, anything else about that, or we'll keep going?
No, I will say though, the wellness professionals of all types, professionals, anyone who, wants to create conscious wealth, we do have a lot more to say about that. And when I was mentioning Susan and showing me human design and teaching me about those charts and wealth dynamics, stay tuned because this is really for you. Because I don't know, for a long time, I thought I needed to do all of these things to be successful and to manage myself. And now through learning through Susan, I've realized what I do need. And I think that's really important. So I don't want to get into that. That was just a little teaser, but I did want to say there is more to come.
Thank you. And yeah, we didn't mention that, in a prior incarnation in this lifetime, in this body, I was a vice president of a bank in New York City. I'm sure you wouldn't have guessed that if I hadn't mentioned it. Been an interesting life so far. Okay. And what we hope you'll take away from tonight is a real sense of empowerment, because that's what this is intended for, a validation of your inner knowing, an understanding of your make and model. We're going to, keep coming back to that metaphor, and ideally plans for next steps that you want to take for yourself, or even better, with us. And welcome, Lori. All right. I really asked Jenny to break this down to something simple, because a lot of people have a negative connotation to the word hack. So we wanted to make sure that we shared it correctly. So Jenny, take it away.
Well, like I had mentioned before, hacks are anything that we can use. As you can see there, it says utilizing tools for maximum efficiency. So you're really doing this in your everyday life already with cleaning hacks around the house, um, kitchen tools that provide more ease when you're in the kitchen and cooking, whether it's cutting up. I mean, I put a little juicer here, but that's just, a very basic tool that somebody thought, oh, why just squeeze a lime when I can get maximum efficiency and get every little bit out of that lime? So that was just a fun thing to put up there so you could kind of connect what I mean by efficiency. In that first picture, I don't know if anyone has used this trick, but to get blood out of anything, hydrogen peroxide is really good with that, as well as ice. I mean, there's so many little things that, and a lot of this is passed on, right? That we learn from our mothers, that we learn from our grandmothers, how to be more efficient in ways of around the house. And then with our health, the little cucumbers on the eyes. I mean, keeping something frozen in the freezer for when you feel that extra puffiness, and putting the cucumbers on your eyes, little things like that, that we've probably learned from our mother or from a friend, having girl time, right? Getting around, having sleepovers and learning little tips and tricks. So, again, hacking is something that we do quite regularly and we don't even realize it, because I think, especially in today's time and society, we are moving at really high paces. And so the more efficient we can be, the better. And I think that's something too to mention, especially in the corporate world. If any of you women are out there working and trying to kind of live in this competitive, more masculine type of world, we want to kind of bring you back to the more feminine way that we can be very efficient with work and our time, and maximizing those little hacks in that way. And so yeah, biohacking is right, is getting back to the very nature, the very essence of our being. So hacking our biology is how we define biohacking. It is the art and science of self-care. So really, it is getting down to optimizing our bodies on a cellular level. Really being able to connect with nature is such an easy way that we can create more circulation in the body, that we can get to our natural frequency, which matches the earth. This is something that grounding does. So you see those bare feet in the middle, just getting out, walking on the grass, walking on the earth. Susan said walking on the beach, salt water. And, if you do live close to the beach, salt has a very high frequency. So allowing that to rush over your feet is really quite grounding, and it's really energizing for our body. The way that we eat, when you grew up, I know you heard the term, you are what you eat. Well, now we live in a very toxic environment. Our soil is almost void of nutrition. So it definitely, Lori says walking in the snow. So it definitely matters what you're putting into your body. And I think, I did want to say, because again, we are kind of gearing this a little bit more towards women, because I feel like biohacking has very male connotations with a lot of this technology and some diets and things that you hear about. And let me explain that a little bit. I have, for the last 4 years or so, been presenting and speaking at some of, well, a lot, most of these biohacking conferences and expos around the United States. So I have been really in deep with all of these crazy technologies and tools that we have at our fingertips right now. And the reason that I put the all of the different foods and this kind of balanced diet and nutrition. I don't know if you hear things like, the carnivore diet, or keto, ketosis, and all of these terms that a lot of people hear now. All of that is fantastic, right? But the reason why I feel like it's taken on this kind of masculine connotation is because we keep hearing, oh, everyone needs to go carnivore. That's going to fit everyone. It's going to solve all your needs. Everyone needs to go into keto. If you want to lose weight, you need to try keto. So there's this kind
And at the other end of the spectrum, Jenny, there are people who think that everyone should be vegan, which is completely the opposite.
right. And so again, at these conferences with all these tools, everyone wants you to use their tool, and they have come up with this niche amazing tool that everyone can use, and it's going to provide all of the answers to everything. And while they are amazing, and while they can do good, it is important to meet yourself where you're at. So that's why I think this last bullet point that says exquisitely personalized is really kind of where we want to go, because everyone is different. There is no one blueprint for everyone. We all are so unique. And so it is really important to understand our bodies and where we're at. And so I think once we get to that point, then we can start to bring in all of these magical tools.
And have a better understanding about how to choose what's optimal for us.
Mm.
And that's kind of where Ayurveda comes in for me. But we wanted to share here just a basic wellness model because the sick care system, is assuming that we're this vehicle that's going to break down. We know that the body is like this miraculous entity that is connected to source consciousness and has the ability to create and regenerate and heal itself. So we see the body as, in a completely different way. And I sort of came up with this as a very simplistic way to think about well-being, is that what we can do when we think about taking care of ourselves, or now thinking in terms of biohacking and as a very sophisticated form of self-care, what we can do is more good stuff and less bad stuff. And that allows the body to do its job of healing and regeneration. So this blue line in the middle is like theoretically our immune system. And the more good stuff we do, the higher our immune system can function. And the more bad stuff we do, the lower our immune system can function. And as simplistic as this is, I think it's a really good starting point to begin to think about the choices that you make, and the ones that are most right for you, and the things that you might be most challenged by. So I always like to put this in there as a little bit of context. And then,
Yes. And so, off of that as well, I want to emphasize this because I'm about to tell you what is the most important biohacking tool out of all the tools in the world. And this is really disruptive. You are the most important biohacking tool. And so, that is what we are trying to do with all of these tools, with anything that we are doing to biohack the body, to hack our biology, to create, less inflammation in the body, to better detox the cells, better cellular communication. It's all already within us, right? Our bodies were divinely created with everything, all of the intelligence that we need to create wellness within and to be, vibrant and healthy beings. But we face certain challenges sometimes. And we live in toxic environments. And so that's why these really amazing tools that really kind of blend this ancient wisdom about the body into new technologies. And what it's doing is it's reminding the body of what it does naturally. So anything holistic that you choose to do, whether it does have to do with food or the way that you're exercising, if you're picking up some, new techniques, or if you are trying new tools, you have to really give yourself. It's not just an over the counter pill that you take. It's not a one and done, right? You have to really reflect and allow your body to integrate these tools to help it remind it what it does naturally. So that's really important as well. I always say like 3 months, I think, is a really good way to start any new practice, is really giving it your all for about 3 months to allow that to integrate in your body.
Jenny, I know we get so lost in this stuff. I'm looking at the time. Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to speed up a little bit at least. So in our desire to help people personalize and make, optimal choices for who they are in their bio individuality, I am happy to offer the science of Ayurveda. And I'm these days, a lot of people have heard the word, but many haven't. So I'm going to speak about this in a kind of basic way. Ayurveda is a sister science to yoga, as I mentioned. It's actually a holistic form of medicine that comes from India. And in Sanskrit, it means the science of life. I was introduced to this back in 1992 at a time that I was so out of balance that in a way that I didn't have any way to describe. And Ayurveda was able to describe all of that to me and provide a little bit of a map for how I could get myself more balanced that I didn't have before. And for those of you who have heard about it, you've heard of the term dosha. We'll be talking about that a little bit more. But basically, there are three different energies in this science that we identify based on the elements of air, fire, and water, primarily. And there's Sanskrit words, vata, pitta, kapha. We're really talking about air, fire, and water. And we all have all of those elements in different proportions, and that makes up our constitutional type. And again, being very basic here, depending on your constitutional type and whether you have a predominance of air, fire, and water, there are going to be different choices in terms of nutrition and lifestyle and remedies that will be optimal for you to maintain balance. So when Jenny and I started looking at this from a biohacking perspective, it's like, well, how can you really effectively biohack without knowing what you're hacking? We're all very different. And I've been speaking this language for so many years that I forget that other people don't speak it yet. But I've been waiting for 30 some years to teach the world how to speak Ayurveda because I know that this perspective on who we are offers just an incredibly um, excellent way of looking at ourselves and enhancing the choices that we make very naturally, coming back to like the natural stuff. So just really basic for anybody that's new to this. The three types are basically small, medium, and large. Um, we're gonna, on the next slide, look at the qualities in a little bit more detail. And what I do need to just say, full disclosure, there are these three basic types, and most of us are a combination of two. So there are very few people that I would describe as a poster child for one of these types. So when I show you the descriptions on the next slide, we're going to look at this a little bit quickly. Some of you might look at that and go, oh yeah, I'm pretty much all in this column or this one or this one. For most of us, we're a little bit of a combination. So just in general, people who have a lot of air tend to be thin and straight. People with a lot of fire are curvy and medium. People with a lot of water and also earth are more solid and broad. So I like to say that of the three types, like as a quickie, there's small, medium, large, cold, hot, cold, and fast, medium, slow. So even if you don't know what your type is per se, you might be thinking, if you haven't thought about it before, yes, I'm warmer than most people, or I'm colder than most people, and I speak more quickly or more slowly. Some of the other qualities that go along with this that I've just shared here are our childhood weight and metabolism. And we talk childhood, not current, because as adults, we've had years to imbalance ourselves by eating the wrong things. But we've all seen little kids, babies. Some of them come out, chubby. Some of them come out skinny. Some of them come out kind of intense and cranky. There's that nature nurture thing. We're talking about the nature part here. I mentioned temperature, the air and water people tend to be cold. Fire obviously is hot. There's a different digestive profile for each of the types, which has a lot of implication for the optimal foods for us, because people with a lot of fire can digest really well. They can eat raw foods and digest beans and all of that stuff. But somebody with an air constitution has more of a finicky digestion and doesn't do as well with those foods. And people with a lot of water, again, we're talking about that slow, steady type, tends to have, slow, steady digestion. The air types tend to have, restless, active mental activity. Fire types are very focused and forward moving. And the water is more calm and relaxed. The temperament goes along with this. Vata people, air people can be really creative and emotional, but also high strung and unpredictable. Fire people can be very intense and ambitious. And, when there's too much of that, they can be intense and competitive. And the water earth people are the more calm and loyal and grounded. And each of these types has different strengths, as you might imagine. The air people mostly are known for creativity and inspiration. Fire people more for leadership and goal orientation. And the water earth people are best at reliability and management. And so the overall description is lively, determined, and easygoing. And if any of you have ever read a book about Ayurveda or seen a website about it, you've probably seen some version of this test. And I'm going to say that I think these tests are really not that good because we are so unique that it's a little hard to figure out just from this. But this is a very good place to start if you haven't seen this before. Um, this is a very good place to start. And I'm actually curious if you wouldn't, if you would be interested in putting in the chat, just if this is the first time you're seeing this, are you able to get some good clues about the constitutional type that you are? Because that's one of the things we really wanted to share with you tonight, so that you can be thinking about, biohacking with more precision. So we wanted to give you some examples, because another way of looking at Ayurveda and these energies is that not only do we have a particular constitutional type, but we can have imbalances with any of these energies. We can have too much air or too much fire or too much water. And the Ayurvedic perspective on disease is that almost all health conditions are an excess of one of these things. So just again, to make it more real and concrete, some of the things that you might have experienced in your life that are actually attributable to too much air, which I didn't know about until I knew about this. I start on the list with most because more issues are air issues than anything else. So we will in future spend a lot of time on that. But some of the specific ones are, this is obvious, gas is excess air. When it gets more severe, it's constipation, insomnia, which is the image we have here, being so kind of hyper that we can't sleep. That's too much air, anxiety, all the neurological and emotional disorders that people can have from an Ayurvedic perspective about are too much air. Osteoporosis is actually a Vata condition that there's too much air in the bones, just making them too porous. And actually premature aging is attributable to too much air. And I believe that most aging in our world is premature because we live in such a speeded up world and we're so out of balance. And again, it's a good news for the ladies. We don't have to do that. um, Moving along, some examples of issues that you may experience in your life that Ayurveda would identify as too much fire. These are kind of obvious, I think. Infections,
Okay.
anything with an itis, that's too much fire. Inflammation, which is, a major health challenge, too much fire. Rashes and skin issues, bleeding and blood issues, and anger and frustration. If you kind of tune in, you really get a sense that there's a lot of heat and fire going on around that. Although when it's balanced, of course, it gives us the best digestion.
And Susan, I just want to ask you for for balancing, because we are going to go more in depth on, certain tools like biohacking tools that will balance. Would like cold plunging then,
That's a
for
really good
fire?
question. Exactly. And that was one of my things when cold plunge is a technique that people in the biohacking world are talking about and doing a lot. And to me, it would be really balancing for somebody that was hot-blooded. It might not be as beneficial for somebody that was constitutionally already very cold.
Mm.
And I'm guessing that that question isn't being asked out there. And that's why we're posing it here. So thank you for that. So again, there's lots of great stuff out there, but it isn't all the best fit for everyone and the issues that we're individually dealing with or the physiology that we're starting with. So the water kapha imbalances, some of the things that people experience, expression of is mucus, too much water, overweight. In fact, that's especially for women, a particular topic to talk about because there are 3 different patterns of overweight based on these 3 different energies. For kapha people, when they're overweight, it usually is because they have a slow metabolism. But for vata people, it's quite the opposite. They have a fast metabolism. They're just so high strung that they tend to overeat sometimes for emotional reasons and can have like a yo-yo pattern. And pitta people have really intense hunger and intensity that they use food to soothe. So even just looking at the issue of weight management, which is something that many, many women do look at, there's 3 completely different patterns of things to be balancing, which most people don't know about. So diabetes is also excess water, pulmonary issues, growths that are not malignant, and emotionally sluggishness and depression, which kind of makes sense. We're talking about that energy that's slow and sluggish. So this is just a little introduction to this, what I call the language of the body, that it's not just a case of waking up in the morning and feeling out of balance. We can actually go exactly what am I out of balance with? Is it too much air? Is it too much fire? Is it too much water? What can I do to balance those things? And we have, I'm happy to tell you some little hacks here for you tonight. And again, this is just an introduction. I could talk for weeks about this, but the qualities of air are cooling and drying and airy. So the balancing qualities are warm and moist and calming and grounding. And so the ideal types of foods to be balancing that air, or for somebody that has that constitution, are things that are grounding and warming and easy to digest. So soups and stews and cooked food. I know many people believe in the benefits of raw food, and I agree. They have, great nutrients and stuff for people that can digest them. But the Ayurvedic perspective is that not everybody has good enough digestion for that, and that a lot of air constitution people don't. And then I'm offering here tonight, again, it's just an introduction, and people who know me have heard me talk about this many, many times, but sesame oil is the one thing that Ayurveda says is the best way. If you're going to just do one thing to balance vata, it's by applying sesame oil to your skin. And this brand, if you live in South Florida, or if you're familiar with it, you can buy it at the supermarket at Publix. It's a cooking oil that's refined for high heat so it doesn't smell. And that's what I have been using on my skin when I get out of the shower for the past 34 years, I think now, instead of lotion. And it's it was one of the things that helped me deal with years of imbalances that I developed working in corporate America and running myself into the ground before I had my owner's manual. So that is my favorite hack for vata and for women over 50. Sesame oil is a wonderful lubricant. For pitta and fire, we have different qualities that we're looking at. Fire is hot and it's sour and sharp and intense. So the balancing qualities are cooling and soothing and purifying. And again, just offering a couple of little hacks here. The types of foods that are most balancing for fire, very different from air, are raw things and salads, and especially green vegetable juices. So if anybody has a rash or inflammation or a cold sore or anything in the body, sour stomach, that's too much fire. Green vegetable juices nutritionally are the best, first thing to think about. And whereas sesame oil is warming and grounding, coconut oil is cooling. And it has the properties of being antibacterial and antifungal and things that are very balancing for pitta. So we would be thinking of, different skin care for the different types. And then rounding it out with a couple of kapha hacks. Again, water qualities are cold and heavy and slow. So the balancing qualities are drying and heating and stimulating. And in terms of food, for people who like hot, spicy food, kappas are the lucky ones because hot spices are really balancing for kappa. They're not really balancing for anybody else. So chili is a really good food for kappa, and sprouts because they're really light. And rice cakes because, again, they're really light and dry. They're the opposite qualities, and so they're really balancing. And in the lifestyle category, kappas don't really need much oil because their physiology usually is not dry. It's often more damp. And because they have a body type that's slower and more prone to stagnation, dry brushing is a much better choice for body care than oil massage, for example. So I know that those are just a couple of little suggestions. When I work with clients or in the program that Jenny and I are going to be offering to you, we're going to go into all of this in a lot more detail. Jenny, did you want to comment about this? I know we've talked about this so many times, and I'm
I know we're
reminded
gonna go.
that this is not a language that most of the world speaks yet.
Right. But even just, I listen to you over and over, and slowly things still stick in my brain. But it's so empowering to know that, if I'm going to get a massage and I have, and I'm already a moist person, that an oil massage might not be the best thing for me, and that's never something, all of these things, like a masseuse doesn't ask me that,
No,
so.
almost none of them know about it. And again, I apologize. We are so passionate about this that we can't stop talking. And I do want to get to Q&A because I'd love to hear from some of you. So we're going to start summing up here a little bit. So Jenny, I know this is your this is your baby.
Well, why biohacking? It's not only enhancing the quality of life. It is to create more vibrancy in your life, and being more present as well. Like, it's all about mindset as well. All of these things are really kind of bringing us back to our intuition, and really, once you start implementing some of these tools and little tips and tricks, you will be so shocked at how much more you're actually able to hear from your body and what it's telling you, in a way that you never have before. And so that's really fun for me, is to have been brought back into my own intuition and really be guided by listening to my body and what it's telling me. The ability to contribute. A healthy body and mind allows you to serve your purpose and support others, right? And so I think this goes right into our oxygen mask principle, which is Susan's favorite.
Well,
Um,
as women, we have been so conditioned to be there for others
mm,
that we want to make the point that you can't really fully be there for others until you take care of yourself. So it's not an either or, it has to be a both and. So why biohacking? I think it's especially important for women because we typically are needing to be there for everybody else.
Yeah. And that, this exquisitely, uniquely self-care that we're offering, is so important for women for this reason. Because as mothers, as, friends and colleagues, and all of these things that we do, we literally carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. So it is very important to pay attention to your body and what's going on.
And this next one, if I may, because I came from the finance world, and one of the things that drives me crazy, I mentioned earlier, I don't resonate with the disease care system. It's really expensive.
Mm,
All of this prevention stuff is a fraction of what disease care costs. In fact, one of our recent podcast episodes was on that topic of the ROI of wellness, the return on investment. That bottle of sesame oil lasts me about 6 months, costs about $10. That's what I've been using on my skin, not, fancy expensive stuff. And I just with the sesame oil, I just have to say this. My question often is, about the anti-aging part. If you had a beautiful antique wooden table that you wanted to preserve, what would you do? You would oil it. And that's how I think of the sesame oil. It conditions the skin, but I think it also seals in the life force.
mm,
And I've been using it, as I said, since 1992. And I'm going to be 70 later this year.
mm,
I'm pretty happy with that. And the iatrogenic thing, that's also one of mine. That's something I'm going to invite everybody to do a search of your own. But iatrogenic disease is not malpractice. It's actually disease that is created by medical care, not the errors, just regular medical care is actually has a lot of side effects and risks to it that if we're practicing prevention, we don't need to worry about. So these are just some of the reasons that we are suggesting that this is a really good paradigm to be educating ourselves about because there's so many benefits and so many fewer costs.
mm,
To me, it's pretty compelling. And why Ayurveda, again, I could speak about that forever, but I this is a system of medicine that actually embraces quantum science. It can, the energy that it understands, like Chinese medicine and acupuncture, you can only really understand from a quantum perspective, and not just 3D. It's preventive and holistic and personalized, and has guidance for really all areas of your life. We barely touched on it tonight, but there's different spiritual practices that are recommended for the different types. And it offers an experience of true balance that, again, it was life-changing for me. So I'm going to wrap up. I hope this has been interesting and captivating, and that, you've gotten a lot out of it, and hopefully you'll want more. So I wanted to just share with you how you can get more. One of them is we've got this amazing podcast that Jenny and I and one of our other co-hosts is here tonight, where we cover a lot of these topics. And that the interview that I mentioned with Teresa Lally. We have an amazing program that we're offering, no surprise, as a follow-up to all of this, where we're going to be diving into everything in much more detail. We'll be mentioning that in a minute. We have a live workshop for those of you that are in the South Florida area, which I realize not everybody is, and that's going to be taking place on International Women's Day, Saturday, March 8th, that we'll be able to celebrate together. And we also have this wonderful membership community that we'll be mentioning, that we'd also love to invite you to join us, because we keep this conversation going every week, every month. And Jenny and I also have individual sessions that we offer. So what I was mentioning about the program that we're excited about, that's going to be starting in 2 weeks. And it's a 3-part program with live online sessions like this with Jenny and me, but much more interactive, where we're going to be going into all of this in a lot of detail, all of the things that we touched on tonight. And everybody that is part of that program is actually going to receive an owner's manual for their make and model. So you'll be getting, this other perspective on yourself, questionnaires and handouts with, specific things that you can learn, not just your constitution, but a lot of other things that I put together over the years. We'll actually have a more specific assessment of your constitution. We just did a little bit of introduction tonight about the qualities of the different types. We'll be sharing personalized biohacking tools, like Jenny was mentioning about the cold plunge. Get a sense of whether that's the right thing for you or not. And we'll have recommendations really about everything: foods and herbs and essential oils and lifestyle and fitness practices. And as I said, an owner's manual that I actually have written for each blood type and Ayurvedic type, that you will receive. And we're offering a special, because we're just rolling this out. We'd obviously love to have you join us. And if you do, within the next week and a half, the rate will just be $108 rather than the regular $180. And you will be on live with us for Q&A. In the future, it'll just be the recorded program. And we also have a special bonus for anybody who registers during this period, because I also work with the different blood types. So we're going to have an extra session where we bring in that aspect of your bio-individuality. Most people don't know their Ayurvedic type, but they do know their blood type, or they can easily find that out. And we're going to try to really encourage you to also be part of our community. So anybody that registers for this program will get a $100 gift certificate to join the community, which would make this pretty much free. And if that's of interest to anybody, would love to speak with you about it. That's the QR code, actually, where you can register if this resonates so much that you just want to jump in and do it. And this is a little bit more about the community. That's Jenny and me, obviously. The other lady is Christina Godino, who is our new community host. And we've been doing this for the past few years. We have a really small, engaged community that we are ready to open up more. But we've had this experience for the past few years of living in this beautiful little bubble together with other conscious women sharing our interests. It's going to be housed on the Mighty Networks platform, which is like a whole private Facebook group with curated stuff every day. We have monthly themes. We have regular Zoom gatherings on different topics like this one. We celebrate holidays and birthdays together. We have all kind of trainings. We've got discounts on things. Actually, you can read this, but it's been an incredible experience that we haven't really been ready to open up until now, and now we're really thrilled to do that. And we also have a professional membership for practitioners in the field that want to engage on that other level of masterminding and mentoring from a business perspective. So next Thursday night, we're going to be having an online relaunch party, and we've got all your emails, so we're going to invite you. So I hope that this is of interest. And like I said, we're kind of bundling these two things because we would love everyone to take the program. We'd love to be everyone to be in the community. And if you do that, it will be worth your while. And yes, it's just a little description of my sessions, which are an hour and a half long, and I call them a wellness breakthrough consultation. It's a perspective on yourself that you probably will never have anywhere else. And there's a QR code for that. And Jenny has an amazing program that session that she offers that mine are actually available for anyone because I do them on Zoom. Jenny's is a scan that scans your entire biofield. This little image here of the figure with the blue and the pink, you actually get to see yourself in that perspective with, how your energy is flowing with your different organs and different systems and different chakras. It's mind blowing. And if you're lucky enough to be in the South Florida area, that would be available to you. And that's her QR code. And we are going to be, we'll be sending out an invitation to the live workshop to the local ladies. Not quite ready for that yet. And that kind of concludes what we wanted to share. And actually, we started a little bit late. I think we made it in just about an hour. Jenny, how'd we do?
Yeah, we did great. And I would
Yeah.
love to do a little Q&A. I know some ladies popped some questions in the chat. So let's end it there and stop the recording. Thank you all. If you're not with us tonight and you're watching, we hope that you took away some really yummy tips and tricks. And please reach out to us for further information about anything.
Jenny, I am not seeing how to stop my share. I've never had this issue before. I am
We'll
up.
stop your recording.
I can't get to it. I'm, I am, stop share. It was hiding from me. Okay, I stopped my share and I stopped my